Welcome to the Experience Gap, the insight shop to the rescue, where we turn customer nightmares into teachable moments for businesses. Each week, we bring you real stories of service breakdowns, highlight the moments that matter, and equip businesses with strategies to delight their customers. I'm Kate Complin, the owner of the Insight Shop. I created this podcast to give customers a voice, to share their stories and frustrations in hopes that companies would take notice, listen, and take action as customers are your most important assets. Today, I'm joined by Gregory Kohs, owner at Research Biz LLC. He has spent nearly 25 years in leadership positions at both market research firms and on the client side in market research development roles. His focus is on quantitative survey data collection, new product concept testing, and pricing optimization. He also conducts qualitative interviewing among business decision makers. Greg, it's great to have you on my podcast.
Thank you so much, Kate. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, Greg, before you share your poor experience with us today, can you share with the audience some attributes that make experiences great?
I think any business thrives when it can personalize and make more human their interactions with customers. That can be as simple as a smile or a greeting, or it can be where someone truly empathetically understands the problem that you're having, and they'll make you a promise and fulfill that promise.
Those are great attributes. Thank you for sharing that. Tell the audience about your auto insurance claims experience at State Farm. What fell short? What happened? And how did that impact you?
I'll acknowledge right off the bat that I didn't give State Farm an easy problem to solve. Nonetheless, I think there were a lot of shortcomings that could have been improved or repaired. In the month of May, I went on a lengthy 2,000-mile journey with my daughter, who was going to be working in a summer internship in Denver. I was helping her move out to Denver from Tallahassee, where she goes to school. And along the way, we went through some very high levels of rain and standing water in the highways. The car was never flooded, but we were driving through some heavy downpours, and unbeknownst to us, there was a hole in the underbody of the car right behind one of the wheel wells. And so water was spraying up into this hole and accumulating in the trunk. And this is a Honda CR-V. There is a rear cargo area, and in that cargo area, there's a lower cavity for the spare tire. It's underneath a protective board or shield that you rarely lift, so you don't really know what's going on underneath there. Apparently, after driving through Louisiana and Texas and all these torrential downpours, we had accumulated maybe a half gallon to a gallon of water that was just sloshing around in the spare tire well. And with the movement of the car, some of that water was starting to seep into the back passenger area. That's when I first noticed it, when we were in Denver and it was perfectly dry and perfectly sunny. I noticed some of the flooring in the back was just a little bit damp. And I said to my daughter, "Did you spill coffee or something back here?" I smelled it and I said, it smells a little bit off. I initially thought some of the weather stripping around the window was not holding the water out through all that rain. So we should just air the car out and not worry about it. My daughter was smarter than me, and she said, "I'm going to take it to the Honda dealer here and have them take a look." And the Honda dealer said, "We can do a tear-down inspection that your insurance company, if you give us their information, they're going to want this as part of your claim if this does go to a claim."
Mhm.
So I said, "Okay, here's the information." And the Honda dealer, within an hour, deduced what the problem was, and they identified it. But that this is going to require body work, and we don't do body work here. So you're going
Mhm.
to have to take it to a body shop. So I called State Farm and asked, which body shop I could go to. The one they recommended couldn't see the car for at least another 8 weeks or 6 weeks or something like that. So I
Wow.
said, can I find some others in the area? And they said, here's a list of a couple more. So I found one a few blocks from where my daughter was working that summer,
Mhm.
and they could see the vehicle in the next couple of days. But that's where I had advised my daughter, move the car from the Honda dealer over to that body shop.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, State Farm was covering a rental car for my daughter. Even though her car was drivable, we just
Mhm.
figured if there's any more rain or any more puddles, it's just gonna get more water in there, and it's probably better to be driving a rental vehicle. To make a long story short, this is where all the problems started to surface. State Farm has moved to an entirely virtual claims adjuster modality ever since COVID, so they don't send anyone to actually physically look at the vehicle and to verify or confirm that there is a problem and what it is. They rely on the inspection to determine whether the cause was collision or just normal wear and tear.
Mhm.
Um, we determined that at some point we must have run over something in the road. I don't know whether it predated the trip or whether it happened on the trip, but when you're going through a thunderstorm with the rain pouring down and
Yeah.
hit something, I'm not sure that we would have even noticed. The weird thing is that the Honda dealer never made a determination whether this was a collision based damage or whether it was wear and tear based damage. And they said the vehicle is now off our property. We can't make that determination. We'd have to reopen the ticket. And State Farm wasn't interested in doing that. And I said, well, can't the body shop provide that? And they said they should. Every time I heard back from the body shop right away, this is definitely collision based because there's some bent metal behind the mud guard. We had everything all in line, but trying to communicate that to State Farm turned into about a 10-day process of me calling them. Sometimes I would leave a voicemail, and their voicemail would even say, "Don't leave an additional voicemail because that will only further delay the processing of your query." When you don't hear back from them for 3 days, I would call again, and then you get a different person every time. It was never really the person who was assigned to our claim. And in the middle of all of this, they canceled the rental car. I asked, "Why did you do that?" Because supposedly we had a $1,500 rental allotment. The
Mhm.
cost of the rental was under $50 a day, so I figured we had many, many more days left. And they
Mhm.
said they weren't sure why it was canceled. They think it's because we moved the car from the Honda dealer to the body shop, which therefore to them signaled that the vehicle was drivable. And so therefore we didn't need the rental car anymore. And I said, I could have told you right from the get go that the vehicle was drivable, but we were choosing not to add to the damage should it
Right.
rain in Denver. I will say it ended on an up note after like this 2-week ordeal of just going back and forth about, do you have the documentation? Do you have the approvals that you need? I don't know. I'm still looking into it, that type of thing. And it just felt like whoever was assigned to our particular claim was overloaded, and probably
Yeah.
through this virtual claims adjusting program they're probably now handling 50 cases simultaneously rather than maybe 20 or whatever it would have been in the past. And so I can sympathize with their problem, but I State Farm really dropped the ball with me. It ended on a higher note because I finally got through to another specialist who suddenly took on the commitment to make sure that everything got resolved to my satisfaction and did actually call me back. He said, "This is going to take me about 45 minutes. I'll call you in the next hour." Sure enough, within an hour, I got a call back. He said, here's what I was able to clear up. Here's what is still undecided. Here's what I'm going to do to solve that. So, at the end, we had a adjusting specialist who really did take ownership of the problem and made sure it got across the finish line.
So, Greg, in that auto claims insurance process you went through, what moments were really important for you and your daughter to go right?
For me, the challenge was that I was back in Florida and the vehicle's out in Denver. My daughter doesn't want to handle it. I know she's 21, but she's like, the car's in your name and the insurance is in your name. So I should probably be handling this. But, they were asking me questions. Is the vehicle this? Is the vehicle that? And I'm like, I'm not sure. I haven't driven that vehicle in 3 years. So the important aspects would have been to just acknowledge that this was an unusual situation, that their customer, me, the policyholder, was going to need some additional attention than an average customer would need. I think that some of that acknowledgement was going to be a long distance problem
Mhm.
solving exercise. If they could have escalated this to perhaps somebody who had a little more bandwidth that could help me, that would have been very helpful.
Greg, what were the biggest pain points for you and your daughter in this experience?
There were numerous pain points where it was obvious to me what the situation was, but because something hadn't been documented or somebody hadn't verified that some status or situation hadn't been reconciled, I was just left in limbo. And that's just the most frustrating part. If I could have talked to somebody who knows auto collision insurance and I could have told a 2-minute story, they would have been able to say, here's what needs to happen, and we'll make sure that it happens. Why was I having to take State Farm's form, send it to the Honda dealer, ask them to complete it? The dealer saying we can't complete it because we no longer have the vehicle on property, then me having to go back to State Farm. I don't understand why the policyholder has to be the messenger boy.
Thank you, Greg, for sharing your story. What I took away from that is when everything is digitized, it doesn't always work for everyone. Sometimes you just need a human voice. You're the customer, so how could have State Farm taken things off your plate? And three, how do you get a hold of somebody faster when you need to? How do they open up more channels for communication? I didn't hear a lot of follow-up from State Farm. So when you did reach out, you didn't know when you were going to hear back. You didn't know where your claims was in the process, what needed to happen before it would move to the next step. So there was a lot of unknowns and uncertainty.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll leave you with this. According to Insurance Data Lab, claim issues account for 71% of all insurance complaints to the Financial Ombudsman Service in the 12 months ending September 2024. I've done a lot of claims insurance research, and customers will leave their insurance company if the claims process does not go well. Insurance companies really do need to listen and take notice of that statistic. In 2024, 22.2% of closed insurance complaints were due to delays in processing claims. And Greg, you had a long delay in your claims process.
Yeah.
Some other complaints are around unsatisfactory settlements or offers, unexplained claim denials, delays in vehicle repairs, which Greg, you also experienced, poor communication and poor customer service, which you also experienced, and that relates to unresponsive adjusters or lack of updates, which you experienced both of those, and complex processes that are difficult to navigate. So for you and your daughter, there was really no visibility into the process with State Farm. So these statistics really show the importance of effective communication, timely service, and the need to simplify processes to enhance customer satisfaction during the auto claims insurance process. So thank you, Greg, for sharing your story about your auto claims experience with State Farm.
You're welcome, Kate. I appreciate it.
And thanks to our listeners for tuning in to The Experience Gap, the Insight Shop to the rescue, helping businesses turn frustration into delight, one experience at a time.